Hello and welcome to Forever Box. And an interesting Monday this week. We have just had the Origins round in the URC, where we saw two local SA derbies playing a day after Rassie Erasmus announced his first alignment camp of the year. Now, obviously, with an alignment camp sort of announcement, you're going to have a lot of players who are suddenly being called in and obviously very excited. And, some of these players will be the biggest moment in their career. But also, for a lot of players, very disappointing in that they didn't get the call up. And when you call up, close to 60 players on the domestic circuit and you're not part of the list, that's quite a sucker punch in terms of your Springbok ambitions, because you think suddenly you're very far down the line. And today I thought what we'd do is we'll look at a couple of players who I think were very unlucky not to be invited to the alignment camp. And I think this weekend, some of them very much put their hand up and kind of showed, well, hang on, I should have been invited. And it was quite interesting to see how there were certain players over the weekend that definitely looked like they were trying to make a point. And sort of on both sides, players who had been invited to the camp that maybe were trying to sort of overperform at times. Jake White even mentioned the fact that he reckoned that that would have played into some of the performances in terms of players maybe not sort of sticking to their sort of role, but trying to almost do too much to try and, show their worth and justify the selection and the likes of that. And we've seen it before, sometimes players are just trying too hard as opposed to just going back and doing the basics and doing what has gotten them to where they are in their career so far. But very interested to see what everybody's reaction is to these sort of players. And I want to know from you guys who else was maybe unlucky to not make the squad down in the comments below. And maybe even name, who you think they could have been there ahead of. So, yeah, before we get into that, please do smash like. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Exclusive blog content coming up here to the channel throughout the rest of the year, and a dedicated Springbok news channel. So everything you need to know about Springboks is going to happen on this channel. In conjunction with our Fair Sports channel, which is far more general with regards to rugby. But let's get into it, eh? And the first person who I thought was a very strange omission, and that is that man over there, JC Pretorius. Very strange for me, Razor Duplessis getting called into the Block alignment camp. He's played 4 or 5 games for the Lions the entire season. I don't think he's played since about November. And Jason Pretorius has been playing week in, week out, and I thought that on Saturday he looked like a player that was out there to prove a point. I thought he was absolutely tremendous. He was lethal at the break dives, getting involved with his attacking, and it was a moment where I think he stole the ball upright, and you just sat there going, that is the Quacker Smith in him. He is being called the Quacker Smith 2.0, and he very much is that type of player. So good at the breakdown, quick around the park, and given how successful Quacker Smith's been, I struggle to see how he would not be bringing value to the box. I think a lot of people will agree. He was definitely one of the big names that people were sort of going, how is he not making a box squad? So I think it's a matter of time, to be honest. I think I think he's really come a long way in the last year for the Lions. I think he'll keep progressing, and I think he's going to keep. I think he'll commit to the Lions as well. The nice thing with sort of these sevens players is you when you come from sevens to 15s, you generally do get paid quite a lot better, and I think you're probably more willing to put in more years on this circuit before you make it into the sort of box squad, and then you kind of move overseas like a Quacker Smith has done. So that's my first one. The second one over here is a fan favorite, and that's Masuku. So many different fly half options at the moment for the box in Money League box, Fami Gommans, who do Jordan Hendricks, Andre Pollard, all of them very good age-wise. Now, Masuku is someone who's been in a block alignment camp before and been in an official box squad as well. Has not gotten a box cap. One of the few that was involved last year in the box sort of setup, but didn't get a cap, and not in the alignment camp. So trying times for Masuku in his career. You think about last season and how he just was absolutely superb. Sort of knocked the door down, carried that Shark side for that January to sort of May period where they went on to go and win, and still playing very well this season. He's had to sometimes at times play second fiddle to Jordan Hendricks. So you think about last season, and by the time he got to the end of the season, he was you're starting fly half. But he only came in the beginning of the year, but after that he basically didn't get dropped. This year, for example, this season rather, he's had to sometimes play second fiddle and the like, but he's still playing very well. And a lot of people were very upset that he didn't get a cap last year. I think a lot of people will be very surprised that he wasn't involved in the setup. The next one is another Lions boy, and that is Nico Steyn. Now, the reason I think he's very unlucky is I look at some of the players who were called up, and nothing against Paul de Vet, but I think that player over there has got a much, much bigger ceiling. He's a young player who's coming through the ranks. He's having to play second fiddle to Morin van den Berg, who was absolutely tremendous this weekend. Very lucky not to get man of the match against the Stormers, and I think really high on the block radar. But at just 22 years old, I think he turns 23 this year, does Nico Steyn. can play at 10, reasonably good goal kicker as well. I think he fits the bill. Played was brilliant for the SA under 20. So very, very surprised, especially long term, that they didn't look at him, because I think he's got all the tools he needs to become a Springbok scrum half. And at his age, I think he's got a very, very high ceiling. The other one is the Sharks captain for this weekend, Vincent Tshituka, who allegedly last year, him and his brother are eligible to play for South Africa. They've got their paperwork sorted. I don't know why this guy wouldn't be part of an alignment cap. I mean, he covers lock as well as flank. He's a tremendously physical player. He's a good line-out jumper. He's a good set of ball skills. I think he would add a lot of value. I mean, I think that if he had his papers, I think he would have been involved. I think he'd probably be a Springbok by now, to be honest. So weird that maybe he hasn't had the sort of season for the Sharks that he had at the Lions, for example. I think if he had his papers at the time, I think he would have got straight into that box squad. But that player is still there, and we've seen him before. So still pretty young, still got plenty of time ahead of him, and surprised that Rassie Erasmus hasn't gone and brought him in to sort of give an idea of what he's like. I think he turns 27 this year, and I think ticks a lot of boxes. I think he just looks like a type Springbok type player. I think he would suit the Rassie Erasmus system. And the final player is the Bulls player, and that is Ruan Vermaak. Now, interesting signing Ruan Vermaak. When he came to the Bulls, nobody really stood up and took much notice. But he's actually been passed by Kubus Visa, his teammate, for that box squad call-up. We have a shortage of number 4s in this country, and I think Ruan Vermaak, even once again this weekend, I think he's such an underrated player. Brings a good physical presence, very good in the line as well, and a very hard worker. Yes, he doesn't have the physical presence that the likes of him Netsabeth has. Doesn't really maybe bring you that enforcer role. But you look, for example, at the games this weekend, and I thought he was probably the best number 4 out there. I thought Etienne Lewis says in the line, I think he'll actually become a very nice player if he continues to progress like he is. But I think Ruan Vermaak is probably the stand for him this weekend, and in the position where we need more depth and more options. Find it very surprising he's been invited to the alignment camp. Other players, for example, J.D. Schicklin, people talking about Ruben van Heerden, for example, especially in the lock department. So those are sort of 5 players that I've picked out. What do you think? Do you agree with these 5 players? Who would you add? Who would you take away from this box squad? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash the like on the video. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday for this week's Rassie Report. If you have any requests, for example, about things or questions you have for the box and kind of where you think we need to talk about, then let me know down in the comments below as well, because we want to know exactly what you guys want us to chat about, as much as obviously what we feel we need to share and chat about as well. But thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll see you guys all very soon.